Let's continue with our example. We asked Fathom for a summary, but all it gave us was the mean. Notice if I click on the summary here anywhere, it brings up a summary drop-down menu. If I click somewhere else, that summary drop-down menu is gone. So to get more out of the summary, I go ahead and click on it to make it blue. Now I go ahead and go to the summary drop-down menu, and I'm going to choose some of these options. I can add basic statistics. I'm going to do that first. Notice that there's more information now in the box. I open it, and the numbers here are mean, count, standard deviation, standard error, and the count. And I want to add even more. So I'm going to add the 5-number summary, which is really similar to what we get out of the TI-84. So now we've got all of those different measures that we might want to use for some kind of a calculation. Another thing that we want to do is to take a look at a graph of this data. I'm going to go ahead and pull a graph down. The graph will be blank as I pull it down into my work screen. Let's say that I want to compare long jump, and I want to put the long jump maybe on the x-axis. Here's the vertical axis, here's the horizontal axis. Since it's my variable, I want to go ahead and drop it on the horizontal axis, so I've dropped it there. It's a dot plot. So in my dot plot, I want to go down to, let's do a histogram. So I've changed it into a histogram. I can use my cursor here. Notice as I move it over the scale, I get these different hands. A hand that points up, a hand that points to the left, a hand that points to the right. And as I move those, I can change my scale by stretching this and shrinking it. If I use the up arrow here and move it, I simply slide it without changing the scale at all. I can do the same. It automatically gave me frequency. I can do the same with a frequency. If my hand points up, I'm actually stretching the scale, but if I use the hand that just points towards the middle, where is it? I can just slide it. I'm not going to get it. That's okay. We don't want to slide it anyway. I can change this to a dot plot, but that's not very interesting. If I wanted to do a scatter plot instead and compare long jump results with the year, maybe we want to predict that the long jump distances increase as the years increase, which it looks like they might. I'm going to go ahead and move the long jump so that it's on the vertical axis instead, just because we typically put years on the horizontal axis. So let's put the year on the horizontal axis. I'm going to turn my volume down just a little bit. So there we have a scatter plot, and it looks like we have a pretty nice correlation. Let's see if Fathom will allow us to add a best fit line. I clicked on the graph, but I really want to right click, so I'm going to right click, and I'm looking through the choices here. There's a lot of different options. I'm going to ask it for a least squares line, which is a really common best fit line. So I go ahead and put that in there, and it gives me a pretty nice connection. If I want to look at the correlation value for these, I'm going to bring a summary in, and instead of doing a single variable, I'm going to compare long jump and year. Let's go over to long jump. I'm going to bring it into one of the boxes that are green, and I'm going to bring year into the other green box right here, and it compares the two and it gives me my correlation coefficient. It's 0.87, which is close to +1, which means that we have a relatively strong correlation, maybe not a super strong correlation. Let's look at a box and whisker plot. I'm going to bring down yet another graph. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. I'm going to bring down yet another graph. With a box and whisker plot, we use a single variable. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to bring my long jump, one of my variables, down to the x-axis. I don't want a dot plot, so I go up to the arrow keys here and choose box plot. So I've got my box and whisker plot. Notice I've got a single outlier. If I click on that, it should show me where it is, and there it is, the very, very first year. So that's a fairly obvious guess there as to an outlier. So it's in the very first year. If I click on the whiskers, it will show me those values there, and this is giving me the 1.5 times the inner quartile range. So that's quartile 1 minus 1.5 times the inner quartile range, and it selected these values. Notice how my values are not perfectly lined up, ascending or descending. I'm going to go ahead and change that by doing sort ascending. And now if I click on the whisker here, it shows me those values.